Man is the highest expression of divinity. That's his point. So, right? Inevitably, we arrive at man, right? And he stumbled like pulling roots and out of the earth and eating berries like a monkey for a time, maybe, But inevitably, he did this, right? And he made a handprint on the wall, right? And so, right, at the end of evolution is man. And at the highest level of that expression is the artist, right? The fartist, right? No need to be too serious, right? That an artist is channeling a divinity, right? That they're, right? Ask any great artist. I've heard Prince say it, right? I'm sure Trey Anastasio feels the same way, right? Right? And so, on the highest levels of those artists, right, are the things that are the conditions that we refer to as clairvoyant, right, as psychic, right? Right? So, right? You can do a lot of things if you are a true clairvoyant, right? And Quentin has been a powerful clairvoyant, the most powerful one in Hollywood for a long time. And he espouses it in his novel, right? That Charles Manson talks to Pussycat in this novel, right? The same way Quentin and I talk to each other, right? That Cliff Booth is Brad Pitt, and Quentin Tarantino is Charles Manson. Pretty funny, how clever, right? So, when you arrive at this condition of art, right? That you can express your knowing in a myriad of ways, right? That often true clairvoyance emerges as a result of decades of mastery, right? That it's not something that, right? No free lunches, right? So you work on music for 10 years, or work on sculpture for 10 years, you work on writing for 10 years, like all of these things, 15 years. Right? But then inevitably, right, like you start tapping into something. Right? And so, right, on the crudest level of that expression is a songwriter, is a writer, right, is a poet, is a painter, etc., etc., etc. Right? All of the arts, right, is the good actor, right, the good thespian. Right? Intermediary, right? Our characters like I want to say Shakespeare, but I suppose he would be in the first category, really. But in the second category is characters like Sir Walter Raleigh, who, through his genius, his peculiar sort of mastery, right? He was one of the first contemporary chemists, right, in Elizabethan England. Right, that there's documents of the executioner complaining because he spent 15 years in the Tower of London for a long time, and there's documents of the executioner complaining about how he turned the only garden that the executioner has available into a still, essentially. He talks about his distillations and his liquors, right? But he has at least one documented case, right? And he tried to save King James of healing a guy with really bad gangrene. He got kicked by a horse and he was like on death's door. And so he had this tonic. It's called the Grand Cordial, right? And he gave it to him. All the doctors said, no, he's dead. Like there's nothing anyone can do, right? And he gave him a massive dose of this tonic and he saved him, right? Broke the gangrene. He kept living, right? This is the intermediary, right? And then on the absolute highest level, right, is a pious, holy person, right, hovering over a sick person, a diseased person, right, and taking their sickness into them or dissolving it into nothing, right? And so what I find myself in, right, is the other side of that, where far easier, right, you can use your mind to try to destroy people, to try to give them diseases, right? And if you're sick, right, like if you have a diseased wit, right, I cannot give you a wholesome answer, my wit's diseased, right? Then you just don't care, right? And so the folly of that, the folly and fallacy of that logic, right, is that the things that people refer to, right, as clairvoyant, psychic, telepathic, etc., are the same things that people refer to as magic, right, and sorcery, right? The words are different, the tactics are the same, right? It's an expression of intention, right, which is a behavior like God, like that abstract intellectual quality, right? And so, if you want to do something, right, say, right, poison someone, right, then you have to, right, then that's like a novel neuronal condition that you engender, right, psychologically, physically, in your brain, right? And then you send it out, and it finds its target, but along the way, right, it scans your body and poisons you a little bit thereby. No free lunches, right? Right? And so the real tragedy, right, of like what's occurring, right? Beyond the fact that he's done evil, awful things to me with the destroying angel mushroom and trying to give me AIDS. Like that's all true. Like that's not bullshit, right? It seems egregious, right? Because it is, right? But, right, this is where we're at. But the real tragedy, right, is that Quentin doesn't have an adult daughter, right? That after Tribeca went south, right, that he told me within a few weeks that he had this woman, this adult woman who was in love with me, right, that wanted my baby, etc., etc. And then it was revealed to me, right, that she was his daughter, right? So, again, right, it's a novel neuronal, psychological, physical condition, right? You're creating a membrane of intention, which is an electrical signal, right? Just like a cell phone tower, right? And so, by the end of it, right, like after I started remote viewing, right, she turned into a nasty bitch who gets paid money to fuck, right? And he poisoned my mind with that for like strong 10 days, right? Constantly. So, like what I'm saying right now, right, is that condition, right, that he made in his mind, right, he sent it out, right, and it went to his little girl, right? And she absorbed the whole thing, for sure, 100%. That's how that works. Like both of his kids did, but she's the one that, right, like I don't think it affected his son that much, but it might, you know, in that way. Right? These things that they've been doing, right, they have wreaked havoc on the psyche of their children. 100%. Right? Right? The damage of which only time will tell. Right? And now they're going to question everything forever, right? If anything ever occurs with her, they have no choice but to say, oh, is this because, right, we were playing fucked up mind games and like letting this guy believe that our daughter was a bitch, right, who fucks 20 guys a day? Little girl, right, like she's defenseless. She can't, like, there's boom, it's done, right? And so now, right, it's the same with me in a big way. Right? Again, I can't, like, all they can do is be evil, right? Like, he wanted me to blow my brains out. He knows I'll never do that, right? So, it's really upsetting.